my gosh. Hey, Crazy Trade Podcast. That's amazing.
Welcome to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's your main man, aka Crazy Crockett. Folks, I am back. As you guys know, I talk about sports, politics, and life. And today I'm going to talk about politics. And the reason why I like to talk about politics, it's good for you. I mean, it's really good to talk about it and resolve your issues and problems. And of course, we're not all part of Congress, but we have a constitutional right to be involved in our own city halls and our districts and all that stuff, and federal stuff as well. But today I'm going to talk about President Trump's banning executive order of transgender athletes to be participating in the sex that they identify. And that's usually the boys playing with the girls' leagues. And I actually agree with him. And there's a governor in Maine, and she, by the name of Janet Mills, she wants to allow boys to be playing basketball, football, or any other sport against the girls. And I just think that if that's her stance on it, and that's really what she believes, I don't know if she should be part of any government official at any state or any level. And I'll tell you what, it just doesn't make sense to it doesn't make sense to let boys play in girls' sports. Obviously, we know that the majority of boys can beat up a girl physically at most sports. I think the only sport that maybe you can think that women and men can play in the same level is maybe golf, because it doesn't allow the male and female to combat against each other. I think that if we allowed men and women to play golf, women would still have to hit the ball at the guy's tee box. And you could tell probably that 80% of the guys could outdrive the girls. And that because of that, the score will be totally different than if it was allowed that women could tee off the women's tee or the family tee that they call it. But I want people to understand that another way to look at it would be like, and I know this isn't part of trans idea or thought, but it'd be like me being allowed to play NBA basketball in the level of NBA players, and then the NBA players would have to comply to my disability. And let's say they couldn't block me, or they couldn't take the ball away from me or steal the ball. It wouldn't be fair, and it wouldn't be fun. And I think that's the closest way I can actually think of this boys playing girls sports. But, let's really dive to Janet Mills' policies as much as I can talk about it. Her abortion policies, she's open to expanding abortion procedures. She will allow private and public insurance to coverage the abortion. And I think I want people to really understand my abortion, where I stand with it. And I think that in some cases, I think abortion is good. And I think we can all agree with that. I think most of us would agree if it's woman's health, or she's about to die, or something's happening to the fetus or the embryo or the baby, that it's going to be significantly crucial to the mother's health. That is an acceptable abortion. But I want to take it to a step further. I'm looking at it as an infant growing up to be a person, and an adult, and then as an independent person. And when I say this, people don't think this far. So what happens if the person with a severely disabled body or mind is born to let's say a healthy family? Eventually, that healthy family would have to do something with that person as an adult because the parents cannot take care of that child. And what's happening to me, what I think is happening is that people are not realizing that the state will take that child in custody by law so that if the family is unable to take care of that child, that the state will do its best to provide all the needs of that person. But most people don't realize that the mindset of a person who's disabled might be still there at a certain level. Now, I'm not saying completely mental retardation, but if a child or that person is able to recognize that he or she is not able to survive on its own, it can be a very scary world to live in. And it can also be a really disappointing world to live in if your peers are moving on and having a spouse and kids and in a family or a wife or a husband, and that person is left behind. It can be very you become really resentful. So when I say what I believe in abortion laws, I don't really believe in abortion laws for the woman's rights. I believe in more for the individual rights to understand that he or she may not want to live an unfulfilled life, and that may be loss of limbs or cognitive uh, impairment. However, I have been on Indeed. No, I mean, sorry. I have been on Reddit, and Reddit, I find it out, that I see a lot of people on Reddit, and uh, for a lot of it has to do with uh, being denied for SSI or SSDI. And I keep reading this message back and forth and people complaining. So I made a Reddit question about how many people who are disabled who have a full-time job or who are working. And I've come to find out there are a lot of people out there who are working, who are disabled. So being disabled is a very fragile thing to talk about because we're not all the same. So moving from that, Janet Mills' drug policy is that she's opposing the idea to decriminalize small possessions of drugs. Now, if she's talking about marijuana and alcohol, that makes sense. If she's talking about heroin, crack, meth, I totally disagree with that. Oregon tried to decriminalize all drugs, but it didn't work. It did not work out at all. So I don't agree with that policy. I agree with it if it's based on marijuana. By the way, if you do too much of anything, it doesn't matter if it's alcohol or marijuana, it's still bad for you. But if you do it maybe once in a while, it's reasonable. That's just my opinion. I'm not going to take a scientific look at it and tell you that I'm right and you're wrong. That to me is, people will do drugs. People eat like a horse and they just eat, and that might be an issue, but that's not important to discuss. The environmental regulations, or the environmental aspect of her outlook is that has regulated plastic to be used at stores, like plastic bags. Styrofoam will be banned. I think styrofoam was banned in 2021 in her state. Gun control. She believes in banning assault weapons. I think my policies about assault weapons is basically, I think that it's our constitution to protect our land, and without assault weapons, we cannot protect our land from invading countries who may want to try to take a stab at us. Um, it can be any country. I'm not going to name the countries. I don't want to be politically uh, propaganding you to think one way or another way from a country that obviously we have issues with. But I think it's on our constitution to protect our land. So I don't believe in banning assault weapons. I think that we need more of a people understanding how things work, how weapons work, respecting our weapons, respecting the law, respecting uh, our officials, our policemen, our policewomen, firefighters, our military. I mean, if you start to learn how to respect that, you'll understand how to respect your ideas about your own beliefs on gun control. The people that are never going to have a gun are never going to use a gun, and um, people who are never have a reason to have a gun are not going, or go hunting or fishing, all that. They're not going to actually. I don't think that they agree or disagree on why we should have guns. I mean, I think a lot of us who don't have guns would still think that the police officers, military should have what it's needed to protect the land, or at least our county. Uh, but here we go, folks. We got to talk about the last but not least of her ideas of LGBTQ policies. She banned the bill to conversion therapy. I think this therapy is based on the fact that they're forcing kids to deny that they're gay or lesbian. It's been probably out there for years about that in the South. Churches have done that. Religious people have done that. But there's also the other side of the coin where we should not have any type of conversation about children having conversion of of um, of forcing them to be a boy when they're a girl, or a girl forcing them to be a boy. I think that if you're 18 years old, you can make those decisions for yourself, but it's going to be on your will, on your time, on your ability to understand what you're going to go through. And I think that, as everyone knows, that most of us are insecure in our teenage years, in our early 20s. Some of you guys and gals have experienced with each other in ways that most of us will never try to do. And, and it's just something that it goes through stages. And I think that, if you are born gay and you're a homosexual, you have a right to be gay. If you are over 18 and you want to have a sex change, you should be able to do that too. But I don't think your parents should force you to do that when you're 14 or 17 or 5 years old. And in no school should even be forcing you to think that way. I don't think that kids should be taught at a very young age of what men and women do in the activity to procreate a new human being, or just recreational sex. So that's where I stand with that in itself. I just think it's interesting that this governor of Maine is not complying to the laws of the land. I think it's really about protecting the child, is what it is. It's not about protecting the individual who's over 18. I don't think that the individual who's 25 who's transgending is being threatened. We just try and protect the people who are way too young to decide what they want to do with their bodies. Obviously, you guys and girls have probably gone through a lot of stages of where you want to be an athlete, a musician, a physics, a scientist, a doctor. I mean, you changes from the time you're 5 and the time when you get graduating from college. And some of you guys and girls who finished college and got your master's or your doctorate, you're probably not even practicing in that field. I don't know, but I do know that I think that forcing people to be forcing kids to be trans is basically stupid, and I think it's basically kind of dumb to force or to allow boys to play in girl sports. That's just, to me, it's obnoxious. I just don't agree with that. So if you like listening to the podcast, thank you for coming back. It's the Crazy Dre Podcast Show. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me on Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Here I am. So peace, love, and you have every right to disagree with me or agree with me. I don't really care. But there you go, folks. I thought it was good to talk about politics, talk about life a little bit. Peace and love. I am out of here.